Hello, I'm Brad Phillips here with Puppy Steps Training. Today I got Kiba in the crate with me. We're going to be doing his demonstration. I am sure that you are super excited to get him down to you. I know we're excited to send him. Kiba is just a really fun little dog, super sweet, and I know that you're just going to love him and enjoy having him around. So today we are going to do a full demonstration. Before I get him out and show you all of his manners and his commands and those things that we've been working on, before I do that, I just got a couple things that I'd like to talk about. First and foremost, just a reminder that Kiba is still a puppy. And so there is going to be some growing, some maturing. There will be times where he tests the water and sees what he can get away with, as well as there's going to be times where he does things wrong. And if you want all of this training that we've done to transition over, it is so important for you to be consistent. And so that's consistent in rewarding as well as correcting. So when rewarding Kiba, so we use a marker training system, and so instead of having a clicker, we use the word okay. So Kiba here associates the word okay with doing a behavior correctly, and in doing so correctly, he knows that he's going to get a reward in return. And so we do still use food very heavily, but we also use toys and affection. Kiba loves both of those, and so you can use those if you don't have food on you, and that way you can still reward him when he does something correct. So on the other side of things, you do have to correct your dog. And so we use the word no or nope, and that all just depends on the behavior that he performs. So the severity of the correction depends upon the behavior. It's kind of like a misdemeanor felony type of deal. Regardless if he does something wrong, he is going to get corrected. So if he does something simple, like maybe he just breaks his stay, I'm just going to tell him no, and I'll step towards him, and then I'll have him do that behavior again. So if we were doing a stay, like I mentioned, I would just have him go back in that stay, and we would just do it again. Whereas if he does something a little bit more serious, like maybe he tried to steal food out of my hand, or he tries to jump up on me, or anything that can be a little bit more of a serious behavior, I'm going to adjust my voice fluctuation and my body language. Those are two factors that dogs read really, really well. So we never want to have to physically dominate our dog. Instead, we want this relationship to be built out of respect. I want Kiba to have respect for me as the leader. So we do have one type of physical correction though, and that is a simple leash correction. And so I'm not going to try and yank him backwards. I don't want to inflict any harm. It's just going to be 2 quick pops on the leash. They're still firm because I want to gain his attention back. Once I have his attention, then I can change behavior. And so that's why it's 2. It distinguishes, me correcting him versus him maybe just finding the end of the leash. So the other thing to remember, if you want all this training to transition over, is to properly manage your dog. So this is one of the most important things you can do. And what that is, what the management aspect is basically maintaining control. If you have control of your dog, you're going to be able to give a quick correction if needed, or a quick reward. You're going to help him understand what your expectations are, as well as a lot of times you stop a bad habit from ever forming. So a good example of this is maybe you're outside, you're in an unfenced area, and Kiba's running around. What's stopping him from going and checking out the neighbor's cat, or going and checking out the mailman? So if you don't have him leashed, there's nothing stopping him. And so he can run out there, he checks him out, and maybe it's super exciting to him, and now he has a behavior that he wants to try over and over again. Whereas if you're in that same environment and you're letting him drag around maybe a long lead, he starts to run that way, you can quickly step on the long lead or grab it, give him a quick correction, and you just stopped that behavior from ever really happening. And so if you can maintain control, you are going to show Kiba what your expectations are, and you're going to have a much better relationship because he's going to understand those expectations, and he's not going to be constantly trying to see what he can get away with. Instead, it will really build that respect for you, and you'll have a great relationship. So those are really your 2 secrets to dog training: management and consistency. So if you can do nothing else but those, you're going to have great success. So now diving into the program. So we got Kiba from the breeder, I think he was 11 or 12 weeks old, and so a lot of the socialization phase was kind of closing, but we still focused a lot on socialization. Kiba he is kind of an anxious dog. He gets nervous. Usually it's not for too long, but you can definitely tell he has some anxiety. And so we wanted to really make sure that we did as much socialization as we possibly could. as well as during that time just really trying to boost his confidence. I want to make sure that I can help him be his best self. I want to make sure that he can be confident in uncomfortable situations and not, shut down. But like I said, he does still have some anxiety, and so you're going to want to work on that confidence as you develop a relationship with him. So what we would do to really build this confidence, we would work on what's called engagement. And so what that is I want him engaging with me, and I am going to be really positive. Sorry, I can't talk here for a second. So an example of this is maybe fireworks. We got fireworks going on outside. Kiba's a little nervous. I would ask him to come over, sit in front of me, and I'm just going to, okay, good boy, okay. And I'm just going to kind of fill him full of treats. We call it a jackpot reward, but it's really exciting to him. And he's going to get so involved with working with you that scary noise will start to become kind of background noise. And if it's a noise that happens regularly, I would slowly work closer and closer to that noise until it's really loud. And that way I can just continue to build his confidence and make sure that whatever's causing him a little anxiety is really lessened. I just really don't want any severe anxiety or timid or aggressive behaviors. So that's what we work on a lot during that socialization. And like I said, you'll probably want to do a little bit of that as you get him home, because I'm sure he's going to be nervous. This travel in a couple days is going to be very stressful on him, and so you're going to want to make sure that you boost his confidence, you help comfort him, and make sure that he finds comfort in you. So with that, now we're going to jump right ahead. We're going to go into our manners. So as you get him home, because he's going to be a little bit anxious and a little bit nervous, you're going to want to take it easy on a lot of the commands. You don't want to expect him to do these real elaborate stays or push him too hard, because you don't want to have him shut down. However, you are going to want to make sure that he follows through on the manners. Those are things that you do not want him to get away with any of it, because if you do, those are things that then he'll see what else he can get away with, or he'll push a little bit more. So expect the manners, but go easy on the commands. So the first one of our manners you're going to see is our gates and our doorways. So anytime Kiba comes out of the crate or we go through a closed door, I expect him to hold a stay. This should be an automatic behavior. I shouldn't have to tell him anything. Now, as you bring him home, you're going to want to help him understand that once again you have the same expectations, and so you may have to give him a simple correction if he tries to walk through a doorway that you don't want him to. And so an example of that is if he came out of the crate here, I might simply just close the door on him, maybe lift up my leg and block him. I wouldn't actually tell him anything unless he was really persistent on pushing his way out. Then I might actually tell him no. And that's the same thing if I go through this house door. I want to have a leash on him. If he tries to go through, I can just pop him a little bit on the leash, tell him that, something like that. Make sure that he's focused on you and that he's in control. That's kind of the biggest thing with any of these, is having him be in control. So okay, good boy, Kiba, good boy. So that's for any closed door, and I'll show you going outside here in just a minute. What you're seeing here is Kiba just came in front of me and he sat down. We consider that our greeting, and so he knows that he is not going to get any attention from me unless he is sitting. So super important behavior. It's also a replacement behavior for jumping. And then the other thing it does is it gets his eye contact. Once you have his eye contact, you have 100% of his attention. And so wait for that. Anytime you call him over, expect him to sit before you go down and greet him. Also, this is a great way, first thing in the morning when they get super energetic and they're running around, or right when you get home from work, we call it the zoomies. So I'm basically just going to ignore that behavior until he shows me that he's in control and he comes and sits down in front of me. So once again, if I just call him over, Kiba, come here. Oh, what, she's going to sprawl out, huh? Good boy, good boy. And then I'll go down and greet him. So once again, like I said, that's a replacement behavior for jumping. Jumping has been huge for Kiba. He is very, very jumpy. And Now we've definitely got to the point where he will not jump up in front of me. He will kind of bounce around, and he does this funny little dance where he stands up on his hind legs. But sometimes he'll try and still maybe get away with jumping behind me because it's harder for me to correct. So when he does that, I tell him the command off. And that's regardless whether he's jumping up on a person or up onto a couch or anything that you don't want him to get on. Tell him off and expect him to get right down. If he doesn't immediately get down, especially like say you're a few feet away, I tell him off, he doesn't get down, I will step towards him, I'll say no, off, and I might even help him down. I'm not gonna, once again, I'm not gonna physically dominate my dog, but I will remove those paws and kind of push him towards the ground. Now, if he came up and he wanted to jump on me, I would tell him off, and I'm just gonna bring my knee up and kind of block him. He's small enough, I don't do it very hard, it's more so just a quick lift, accompanied with the command off, just to remind him that, hey, it's not okay if you jump on me. Once again, he does try more so for the back, and so with that, I'll just lift my heel. Once again, I'm not trying to inflict any harm, it's just a block. We call it knocking them off of their gait. And so by doing so, you're teaching him, hey, you're not allowed to jump up. Now, if you are outside, maybe you're on a walk and he gets super excited and wants to jump up on somebody, at that point I will use a leash correction. I will tell him no, off, and I'll pop him twice. Help him remember that he cannot jump on people, but he needs to be sitting in order to get their attention. Yeah, you good boy, you good boy. So now his mealtime manners. So anytime we feed Kiba, we have him hold a sit stay. This should be an automatic behavior. However, if he did break, I would just lift that bowl, and I might actually tell him to stay if he continued to break. No? Okay, good boy. So I want him looking to me for permission to eat. The meal is a very important time to establish this relationship. In a pack mentality, the pack always looks to the alpha for permission to eat, what they can eat, where they can eat, all of that. And so this is developing some leadership qualities here. We also spend a lot of time handling him when he eats, making sure that there's no resource guarding or food aggression, which I've never really witnessed much aggression at a Kiba. Every once in a while he'll stand his ground if another dog tries to steal his bully stick, but that's really it. He's super sweet. As you can see, I can take his food away. I can also hand feed him, and I just want to make sure that there's no resource guarding. Along with that, we work on a lot of just aggression prevention, and so sometimes handling dogs can get defensive over, which, having a dog that's going to be groomed that already is a little bit anxious, we want to make sure that we work on this as much as possible. So we spend a lot of time handling his ears, his paws, his tail. I want to make sure that there's no aggression whatsoever. He's not the biggest fan of me opening his mouth. That's kind of his sensitive area. But once again, he's not going to be trying to bite me or get aggressive at all. Same thing, I like to take him and hold him like a baby. Well, just want to make sure that he's very comfortable with being handled. Good boy, nice good boy. Sometimes playful behavior can be mistaken for aggression, and usually that's with kids. And so I make a rule that especially when small children play with my dog, they have to have a toy. The toy creates a barrier. So instead of Kiba grabbing a pant leg or jumping up on them, he's going to go after the toy. And if maybe you have a child that's a little bit nervous around the dog, you can then direct him away with the toy. So Kiba does love to play, but once you pull out food, a lot of times he's like, I'm not interested anymore. So if you are going to play with him, keep that food put away. Now, when I play with him, I can ask him to drop it, and in that case, if I'm playing with him, the toy is the reward. So then I'll throw the toy, he gets it back. Whereas if I'm going to be taking something away, at that point I'll replace it. And so, we'll get him to hold on to it. I can just ask him, here, He's pretty good about dropping it. Huh. No, you're not going to hold on to it even. Kiba, drop it. Good boy. Good boy. But I want him to physically release it. I don't want to have to try and pry it out of his mouth. And I won't pull it out of his mouth because I don't want to inflict harm in any way. And especially our younger puppies are still teething, so I don't want to catch a tooth. But I'll show you with a bully stick, a little bit higher value here. He should be fine with me handling him, why he has it. I don't want any type of resource guarding. I do expect him to drop it when asked. And this can be done a couple ways. I can ask him to just drop it. Good boy. I want him to physically release it. If he didn't, I might just slip my fingers over his muzzle and push his lips under, and you're just causing him to open his mouth. But also if I want, if I'm just gonna, here you go, I'm gonna let him chew on that. I can also have him drop it on the ground and look up at me. So I can just say, Kiba, drop it. Okay, good boy, good boy. And in that case, if I was gonna take it, I replace it, I just gave him a treat. So we'll do that one more time here, let him pick it back up, or at least start chewing on it. Kiba, drop it. Good boy. So, just like that. Now we've also taught him to be very gentle with his mouth, and so if he was super excited and he's running around and jumping around, I want him to be in control before I give him a treat. And so our command for him to be cautious with his teeth or with his mouth is just gently. And so I can just tell him gently, and I expect him to take it with his lips or his tongue. I don't want to feel his teeth at all. So if he were to rear up and bring those front paws up, I would tell him gently, and I would pull it away. Gently. In general, I always put the treat in the palm of my hand, because that way, once again, I can maintain control. If he were to rear up, it's just a natural reaction to close your fist and pull it away. As well as, once you give it to him between your thumb and forefinger, you're asking him to bite your fingers, because there's really no other way for him to take it. And so because my kids never really understand that, I do work on giving him the treat that way just to make sure that I'm not going to have any accidents happen. And so I can do that, and I expect him to be still very cautious. So let's see. I believe the last manner is chewing. So chewing is a huge one. You really can't escape chewing. Dogs, they just need to do it. One, Kiba is still cutting a few molars in there, and so teething is still going on for the next little while. Shouldn't be too long, but he's going to need things to chew on. So one, if you can just give him adequate things to chew on, you're going to save yourself a lot of hassle. But just remember that the best way to prevent something from being chewed up is to avoid it. And so if you can avoid giving him access to that, that's going to be your best bet. So it's never really possible in your house. There's always something that he has access to. And so in that case, I'm going to replace it. So if he started chewing on a table leg or something hard, I would tell him no, and I would give him something like this bully stick. If he wanted to chew on a fluffy pillow or bed, I would tell him no and give him something like that plush toy. Wants to chew on shoelaces, give him a rope. And so if you can match basically the consistency or texture of what he's chewing on, you're going to have a lot better success. Because dogs, especially when they're teething, they're chewing on a certain texture because of what they feel like their mouth needs. Whether it's something soft just to help finally get that tooth out, or something hard to really dig in. And so if you can match that consistency, you just will have better success. It's also important to note that, say, I gave him this bully stick to chew on. If he got up and left that, I'm going to immediately take it away. And so same thing with his toys. He does not get free access to any of his own things. As soon as he walks away, I take it away. And that's even the same with his food bowl. We don't free feed. We feed him twice a day. I have him hold his sisay. I put it down. If he gets up and goes to get a drink of water, then that's fine. However, if he gets up and starts sniffing around, at that point I take it away and he's done till the next meal. Now, if you have a downtime, like maybe you're watching a show, reading a book, whatever, you can just give him something to chew on, and that way he'll take it to his bed and he should relax for a little while. Now, it's so important to keep him physically as well as mentally stimulated, because boredom will cause destructive behaviors, and that's chewing, digging, bolting. Any of those behaviors can be caused by not getting enough exercise or being bored. So by making sure that he gets that exercise, you'll save yourself a lot of issues as well. So I believe that's it with our manners. Now I'm going to jump right into our commands. So the first two that we're going to talk about are watch me and come. These are two commands that we teach from day one. We spend a great deal of time on them, as well as they're ones that I practice a lot, and I practice with high value rewards. So that can be hot dogs, cheese, turkey, ham, whatever. Anything that's going to be really high value, that way when you need him to perform these, you know that he's going to be on top of it. And really that's more important for your recall command. That come command, in my opinion, is your most important command, and it's one that I see just a lot of people break. And that's not just necessarily saying like from our program, that's just people in general seem to have a hard time with the recall command. So I do set some pretty strict rules around it that I'll describe here in just a second. But to start, the first command that I'm going to show you is once again our watch me command. And so, Kiba, watch me. Okay, good boy. I'm waiting for eye contact. Sometimes he'll watch my hand, and so that's even a good distraction to throw in. I can put the treat in front of his nose. Watch me. Okay, good boy. And I'm just waiting for eye contact. As soon as I get eye contact, I'll mark it. Watch me. Okay, good boy. Now this command does have basically an informal use, which is his name. We treat his name the same way. I expect him to make eye contact with me. However, I'm not going to use a reward every time I say his name. But the expectation is still the same. Kiba. Oh, yeah, sure, right when you're going to eat a chunk. Okay, good boy. Then he still turned around and made eye contact, so I marked it. Kiba. Okay, good boy. Good boy. So I also use his name every time I call him to come. That way I can gain his attention and then ask him for that recall command. By doing that, if I get his attention, I'm going to have more success. So when I do call him to me, when I use that recall, I do get a little bit louder, a little high-pitched voice. I'll bend down. I want to do anything to make myself exciting to come to, because if he can tell that maybe you're not in a good mood, like sometimes I see it when a dog runs out and their owner's yelling at him to come and the dog fails. At that point, us as owners kind of get frustrated, and then finally the dog comes trotting back to us all happy, and then we reprimand him. That is a quick way to kill that command. So when I do ask for it, I want to make sure that I'm positive and I put a positive spin on it. I want to reward him when he comes back. Even if he maybe took a long way around, I still want to make sure that I reward him for actually coming back to me. One of my biggest rules with this command is that I never use it in the house. There's no need. You basically have him under control in the house. He can't necessarily run outside and get lost. Instead, even if he tried to maybe run from you, go into the kitchen, it's not that hard to catch him. So there's no reason to use that command in the house. As well as you don't want to overuse it. You don't want to constantly call him to come to you, especially if you're only like 3 feet away. There's so many other ways to get your dog to come that you don't have to risk burning out a command. So instead, I can do something like, Kiba, come here, come here. You get high pitch, you clap, he's going to come over to you. I snap a lot, but make yourself intriguing. Once again, bending down. All of those are great ways to have him come to you, and that way, once again, it's almost like an informal use of it. Yeah, you good boy, you good boy. Yes. So we practice this recall command a lot. I want all of our dogs to be really proficient at it. Kiba was one that definitely liked to play keep away. He thought it was really fun if you came and chased him. So we spent a little bit of extra time on that recall with him. And if he ever does that, it's important that you don't run after him. Once you run after him, then it is a game, and he thinks it's the greatest game in the world. So instead, like especially when he's out here maybe in a fenced-in area and he tried to do it, I would just turn and walk away and go inside for a second. That way he does not get the satisfaction of me chasing after him. Or the other thing I would do is if he started kind of going the other way and I called him to me, I would go, Kiba, 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 come on, come on, come on, Kiba, Kiba. And he immediately comes running to you. He thinks that's just great. And so it's a little reverse psychology there. Instead of you chasing him, he's going to chase you because he thinks it's the greatest thing in the world. And then once he gets back to me, I hook the leash on and we're going to go. So once again, don't overuse this command. But then on the other side of things, it's so good to practice it. And we practice it a lot. And so there's a couple games that we play. One is if you have multiple people at your house, you can do like a big circle and have everybody have some treats and randomly call him. As soon as he gets to one person, then another person across the circle calls him. And so it's just a great fun game. He gets lots of rewards. He's also learning to hear your type of, or your voice, as well as, you know, different voices within your household. The other thing that I'll do is I'll put him on a long lead and we'll just go for a hike. Go out somewhere where he can just be a dog. He can run, he can sniff, and when I do that, about every minute or two, I will call him to me just to give him a reward. And so call him, give him a treat, let him go again. He's having fun, he's just being a dog. If he hesitates, then I can reel him in because I have control with that leash. So once he's doing really, really well for you on the leash, then you can start to give him more freedom and let him off leash. And I'll do that same thing. We'll go for a walk off leash somewhere where I still have somewhat control, and I'll call him back to me every minute or two just to give him a treat and let him go again. So once again, we're really working on that recall command, but he's having fun doing it. And that's with any training, if you can make it fun, he's going to be more involved, and you're going to be able to really grow these commands and make them all the better. So now I will show you our hand signals. So the first one is sit, and sit is just a scoop over the nose. Down, I take my hand flat and I go down, and then stay is a stop sign. Most of the time, Kiba will lay down. He's very in tune with that. Skylar's also been almost teaching him a bow. Like if we go down like that, he'll lay down. So it's kind of cute that way. But a lot of times you put him in a sit, he'll immediately go down. Which, if I do put him in a sit stay, I don't care if he lays down. However, if I put him in a down stay, he is not allowed to pop up. So to show you that, I'm going to spin him around right here. Kiba, come here. So, no, come here. Come here. Sit. Down. Stay. And we can add some distraction here. Throw some food on the floor. Ooh, got that one close to him. Okay, good boy. Yeah, that was tempting, huh? So Kiba has really great stays, but don't be satisfied with them. Always try and bump those numbers up. So we add what are called the 3Ds, and that's distance, duration, distraction. Those three factors really build a solid stay. Kiba, come here. Sit. Stay. Okay, good boy, good boy. So just adding some different distractions. It's hard in here because we don't have a ton of space, but I want to make sure that I switch it up. He's used to me walking back and forth in front of him, dropping food on the floor, just anything to switch those up. Kiba, sit. Oh, come here. Come here. I didn't want you to lay down yet. Sit. Down. Okay, good boy. So there's his bow for it. He's super fun. He's so smart. Just a great little dog. Oh, yeah. So our next two commands don't necessarily have a hand signal. It's more so he's reading my body language, and they're both a place command. So I put them in an area, and they're not allowed to release, or not allowed to get out or get off until I release them. So I can tell him, Kiba, crate, and I'll just point. Boy. Once he turns around and comes to the front, I give him the treat, and then expect it to stay until release. Okay, good boy. Now, if he were to hesitate, I might just tap on the top. Okay, good boy. Good boy, Kiba. Crate. As well as we've been putting some distance in here. Okay, so he can read my body language. Kiba, crate. Oh boy. Good boy. Okay, now the crate command is one that you want. He knows the verbal very well. Okay, so that's a command you do want to practice quite a bit, because if you only use it when you're going to lock him up, pretty soon he figures that out, and then he won't want to go in the crate again. So if you can ask him to go in just randomly throughout the day, and just keep that variable, you'll keep the integrity of that command. So very similar, I can tell him, Kiba, go to bed. Good boy. And this, I don't care what position he's in, as long as all four paws are on the bed. Okay, good boy. Kiba, go to bed. So now we're going to make things hard for him here, because I've been letting him eat off the floor, and now I'm going to ask him to leave it. Okay, leave it. Ooh. I thought he was going to continue, but you can see how he did stop. Good boy. Leave it. Come here. Good boy. I want him to completely, nope, leave it. Leave the treat alone. I don't want him to try and grab it. Come here. Leave it. Good boy. Good boy. So when I do that, he never gets to pick up the treat off the ground, because I want leave it to mean leave it permanently. Otherwise, there will come a time where you're out on a walk and you'll come across something gross or dead on the side of the road, and if I tell him to leave it, I want him just to walk past it and keep going. I don't want him to think, well, if I sit down and wait, in about 30 seconds she's going to release me and I can go and eat it. So I don't want that to happen. So even when we're working on this, we have like tons of dead raccoons around here for some reason, and so we work on that. I'll have him walk past it, I'll say, leave it. Okay, good boy, okay, and I'll give him like 2 or 3 treats as we get past it, so that he's being rewarded for leaving that gross, good smelling thing. So, but yeah, Kiba's awesome. So that's our obedience commands. So if you do have any questions with those, or even the manners, or anything that we cover, please don't hesitate, give me a call. So I'm going to give him something to chew on while we talk for just a split second. Kiba, you want a bully stick? He says, no, you dropped crumbs in the crate, huh? So, crate training. We've spent a ton of time on the crate, both during the day as well as at night. So Kiba has been sleeping through the night, no problem whatsoever. Goes to bed about 10, gets out at 6, no issues. No whining, no accidents, nothing like that. So, doing great. However, because Kiba is a little more anxious, going home, this is going to be stressful. So, I would say the first couple nights, I would probably just set an alarm and maybe give him a break partway through the night, just so he doesn't start to whine and have an accident. If he does start to whine in the middle of the night, I'll come down and I will let him out on a leash. We go to the bathroom and then we go right back in the crate. There's absolutely no play. It's just a bathroom break right in. So, but for me, I don't want him to get to the point of whining. That's why I say the first couple nights I'll just set an alarm, maybe 1 or 2 a.m., give him a break, and then put him back, and he should be fine through the night. But this transition, with it causing some stress, it's almost a guarantee that Kiba's going to get a little bit of a loose stool, probably have to go to the bathroom more frequently, and so you can just, it's just a safe bet, basically, just to avoid having an accident. Kiba is also good to go 4 hours during the day. So you need to run an errand, go to practice, you can put him in the crate and he'll be fine. A lot of times I will give him like a bully stick or a marrow bone in the crate, just to help him relax, help him feel comfortable. If he seems a little anxious, I will put a blanket over it just to have it more dark and den-like. So along with crating him in the house while we're gone, we also like to work on it while we're here. So if I can do both, I'm going to avoid creating separation anxiety. which it felt like he had a lot of that at the beginning. And so we did some isolated crate training where I would put him in a different room, and then we would leave a little while, come back and make sure, you know, he knew that we weren't abandoning him, but he should also be comfortable with being in the crate while we're gone. And so you don't want that to relapse, and so make sure that you do crate him when you're home as well as when you're gone, because if you only do it when you leave, you will create separation anxiety. He won't want to go in the crate because he'll associate it during the day with you leaving. So, but he's been doing great with it. He's so good. He just relaxes in the crate and he'll lay down and go to sleep. Like I said, I do like to give him something to chew on, like a bully stick or a marrow bone, just to help him feel comfortable and confident. But he hasn't had an accident in the crate for a long time, so he's been doing awesome. If he does start to whine in the crate, especially, you know, the first couple days, you want to judge on why he's whining. If he's been in there, say, an hour or two, and it seems like a really frantic whine, he might need to go to the bathroom. And so at that point, I'll give him a break, and then we'll put him back in, even if it's just for like 5 or 10 minutes, and pull him back out. Because once again, if he is whining, I don't want him to think that he can whine to get out of the crate. Whereas if I put him in the crate and he immediately started to bark or whine, that's when I'm going to completely ignore him. I'll drape that blanket over, and I might, if he doesn't immediately settle down, like within a minute or so, I will tell him, Kiba, no, hush. And I expect him to quiet down. So yeah, that's the crate training. Now his house training, and Kiba is phenomenal with house training. I can't even tell you the last time he's had an accident in the house. He's also went home with my trainers, he's went to different houses, and we haven't had any issues. He's awesome with ringing the bells and not having accidents. So he does know here where the bells are. He knows that they mean to go to the bathroom. Now he's going to go to your home, which is a whole new environment, and so he's going to have to be, he's going to have to relearn where the bells are and where he's allowed to go to the bathroom. And so it's important that you're going to stay on top of him so that we don't have any type of regression. Basically, he needs to understand that your expectations are the same as mine. So, first thing I would do when I get him home, take him over to the bathroom area, give him a chance to go. If he does go, be super positive, high praise, high rewards, and then you can target the bells. So we use a method called free shaping now. This is basically an expedited process. I want him to get super excited about ringing the bell so I can have a lot of repetitions on taking him out. So to be honest, sometimes this can be a little inconvenient, especially for the first 2 weeks. But the nice thing is, with so many repetitions, you stay way ahead of his schedule, and a lot of times they don't have the opportunity to have an accident. So when I start this is what's called targeting. I'm going to direct all of my body language at the bells. I'm just going to stare at him and allow him to touch them. Okay, good boy. And I don't care how hard he touches them or makes them ring or anything. Okay, just that he's touching them. That's all I care about. Okay, good boy. And I'm going to reward him. Okay, good boy. Once he's touching them really proficiently like this, I'll have him do it one more time here. Okay, good boy. Once he's doing it really consistent off your wrist, that's when I'll go to the door. I'll hang it on the door. I'll also put a leash on him. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the door. Okay, outside. Good boy. And this time I'm going to change the wording to where I'll emphasize, okay, outside. Good boy. Okay, outside. Good boy. Good boy. Now, since he's ringing them really well right here, okay, outside. I am going to take him out to the bathroom. He should wait at the doorway. Okay, good boy. Okay. Once again, waiting for the doorway to come in. So, if I were doing this at your house, I would immediately turn around, have him ring the bells 2 or 3 more times, reward him, go back outside. So I do that 4 or 5 times. The reason is I just want to really ingrain it into his mind. And I didn't chew on that. where the bells are, and that ringing them means that we go outside to the bathroom. So once I finish that process, at that point, for the first day, I set a timer for every 30 minutes. And every 30 minutes, unless he's in the crate or he's asleep, every 30 minutes I'll take him over, have him ring the bells, reward him for ringing the bells. We go outside. If he goes to the bathroom, okay, good outside, good boy, give him a treat, and we come right back in. If he doesn't go to the bathroom, it's a neutral experience. We just come back in, there's no reward, no correction. After the first day of the 30 minutes, then the next day I would go to 45 minutes, and then I would spend like 3 or 4 days at an hour. And this is just to get through that stressful transition where he's going to have to go to the bathroom more frequently and have a loose stool. After you spend a couple days doing that, then I would stop rewarding him for ringing the bells and only reward him when he goes to the bathroom. And so if he runs over, he rings the bells, I'll just say, okay, you want to go outside? And I'll hook a leash on, we'll go outside. If he pees, then I give him the reward, good job, good boy, all of that. If he doesn't go, we just come back in. So it is extremely important that every time he rings the bell, you take him out to the bathroom. Even if you know that he doesn't have to go. And if for some reason he comes in, he immediately rings it again, and he rings 3 times in a row. At that point, you can maybe remove the bells for 5 minutes, then put them back, or put them in a crate, just something to distract him from that. But you do have to take him out every time that he rings the bells. And I give him, maybe a minute or two to try and go to the bathroom. If he tries to lay down or play or anything like that, we just come right back in. If he's sniffing around, I'll give him the option to go. So, yeah. And then look for indicators that he does need to go to the bathroom. If he starts sniffing really heavily, panting, pacing back and forth, those are all good indicators that he needs to go. Also, anytime that he wakes up, if he's been asleep for longer than an hour, chances are he'll probably have to go to the bathroom. And then Kiba also usually goes kind of within an hour after eating. So, yeah, you're a good boy. So if you do have any questions with the house training, don't hesitate, give me a call. I want to help you out. I want to make sure that this transition is as smooth as possible. So also, just note that dogs do really well with a routine. And so for us, we get them up at 6, and then they go to the bathroom, and then they usually eat breakfast about 6:30. So we've been feeding Kiba just under a cup of food each meal, and so 6:30-ish in the morning, and then 6 in the evening. The evening meal is more important to me on the time. I try to make sure I do it as close to 6 as possible, because they get put in the crate at 10, and so I want a good 4 hours to clear his system before he goes in the crate. Also with the water, when it's hot, I like to give him free access to water. However, the first couple days, I would probably limit the access just a little bit, because he's already going to have to go to the bathroom more frequently. And so let's try not to make it worse. So I'll give it to him with meals and 3 or 4 other times throughout the day. Unless he's outside. If he's outside, then I give him unlimited access to water, because I do not want him to get dehydrated. It's so fast for little dogs to get dehydrated. So. But he's done great. He's super, super sweet. So I don't think you'll have any issues with the house training. But once again, if you do have any questions with it, any concerns, do not hesitate. Give me a call. So, oh, I almost forgot to mention the most important thing with the house training: 100% supervision. He has to be supervised. If he's unsupervised, how easy for it is him to have a little accident. You think about it, it takes a dog 2 seconds to pee, and so I don't want him to ever escape out of sight and have an accident, because then you just made your life a little bit more difficult. If he's going to have an accident, I want it to be right in front of me, which provides a really unique opportunity. It's I'm going to make it as black and white as possible, and so if he starts to pee in front of me, I'm going to stomp, I'm going to clap, and no, and I'm going to grab him and run him outside. The goal is to stop at midstream. If I do that, then I get him outside and he finishes, then, I'll praise him. Okay, good outside, good boy. And that way he sees, okay, I just got rewarded for peeing out here, but I got corrected for peeing here. So I'm going to make sure that I pee out there. So it's just a really great opportunity if it does happen. Hopefully it won't, but if it does, correct him if you see it. If you find it later, there's nothing you can do about it. Rubbing their nose in it doesn't work. So yeah. So now his leash work. So we take him on 2 different types of walks. The first one is that off-leash or long lead walk. Until I know he's going to come back to me when called, I keep him on leash. And so when you do that, really work on that recall command. Call him to you every minute or 2 just to give him a reward and let him go again. Once he's doing really well, then you can let him off leash. We like to go to the lake and go to the creek. Kiba absolutely loves the water, like loves water. In fact, half the time we find him submerged in his water bowl. He'll just go and climb in. Even when he wants a drink, he'll make sure that like all 4 paws are in the water bowl before he'll get a drink. So I'm sure that he'll love going swimming with you. So those are really great walks just to make sure that you can keep him stimulated. It's just great for his mental health. So our second type of walk is our attention walk. This is where I want him by my side with a loose leash, fairly focused on me, like a walk around the block, anything like that. So this is one part of our program or just one part of training in general, where you want to have a good relationship with your dog in order to have a really successful walk. And that relationship needs to be based on you being the leader, and he needs to have respect for you. Because if that respect isn't there, that relationship isn't there, you can about guarantee that at some point something is going to happen, whether it's another person walking their dog or a squirrel running out or just any type of distraction that's going to cause Kiba to react. And especially if it's another dog or another person, Kiba's either going to get like super excited and want to greet them, or he's going to get nervous and maybe bark and possibly even kind of hide behind you. And so if you don't have this relationship, you can about guarantee that's going to be really like an overreaction. And so instead, if you can make sure that these first couple times that you walk him, you do it at a time where there's the least amount of distractions, you can really build this relationship to where when that situation does happen, he's going to look to you for confidence as well as direction on what to do. If that relationship isn't in place and he immediately starts barking and reacting, you want to try and get his focus and his control back in order. And so ways to do that is, one, if I'm walking him, he's right here, someone's walking towards me, all of a sudden Kiba gets super excited, he starts bouncing out in front of me. I'm going to tell him no, easy, and I'll correct him. If he doesn't immediately put that slack back in the leash and focus on me, I'm going to say no, let's go, I'll pop him again, and I'll walk away from the distraction. I'll go complete 180, I'm at a quick pace, I wait for him to regain his composure. If he doesn't, I'll just sit there, come on, let's go, and I'm going to just keep walking. You don't want to hurt him or drag him around, but I do want him to understand, like, hey, I'm the boss, let's go. Once he regains his composure, he's back by my side, then I'll turn around and I'll walk back towards the distraction. If he starts barking and getting reactive again, I'll tell him, no, let's go, and I'll turn around and walk the other way. So I've done this like 10, 15 times, like just going back and forth. And the point of it is to teach him that we are not going to advance towards what you want to get to unless you are in control. So hopefully that makes sense, but I am going to go out on the road and we'll show you this walk. So when I start this walk, I expect to keep it to be in a sit, or if he doesn't immediately, I'll ask him to sit. I just want his focus on me. So you can watch him walk. I expect him with a nice loose leash, periodically focused on me, keeping on this left side. Let's go. You can do a lot with just a little bit of leash pressure. Like if I'm going to turn into him, I'll just pull back a little bit. Whereas if I'm going to walk away, I can, let's go. So, thanks again. We appreciate it. And let me know if you have any questions.